everyone. I'm Chanel Jones, co-host of the third hour of the Today Show and native Philadelphian. As many of you know, the city of Philadelphia is near and dear to my heart. I was born in Philly. My children were born in Philly. My family is there. And I spent a decade hosting the morning news in Philly. So I'm certainly honored to be with you today. On behalf of the Comcast NBC Universal family, it is my pleasure to host the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia's annual meeting. We have certainly been through a lot this year, and I have covered tremendous struggles, feats of bravery, civil unrest, and moments of compassion. And there is still so much uncertainty ahead. But what I do know for sure is that together we will get through this. Today, we are going to focus on Greater Philadelphia's story, a story of recharge and recovery, of public-private partnerships, of new collaborations, and of aspirations for a more prosperous and equitable future. So imagine this, if you will. I'd like all of you to begin this afternoon session by imagining a region that offers a new national model to learn, apprentice, and work in the jobs of the future. A place known for investing in and growing small Black, brown, and locally owned businesses, a digital community with increased digital literacy, technology, and internet use, a healthy and most livable community in the Northeast, and a top global cell and gene therapy hub. Can we imagine those things? We can. These are the aspirations that will guide our community through the current crisis. And this is the Greater Philadelphia our speakers will help us envision today. So we are certainly glad you've taken the time to listen in today. It will certainly be time well spent. You can participate by entering your comments in the chat box on the event homepage. So with that, I'll turn it over to the CEO of Independence Health Group and outgoing chair of the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, Dan Hilferty.
Thank you, Chanel. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate this chance to be together virtually. We come together in recognition of the somber events of the past several days, the loss of life, the unrest, injuries to innocent citizens and our police, damage to property. These are very difficult times. As your chamber gathers for our 220th annual meeting, we know we must reconcile our deep-rooted differences, heal, and come together as a community, as a city, and as a region. Today, we acknowledge how much remains to be done to ensure inclusive growth and opportunity for all of our citizens. As we recover, we will not cease moving forward to build a better Philadelphia. Some of our content today was previously recorded, but we believe those conversations are as important as ever to share, because our business community can be a vehicle for change and for unity. 2 years ago, when I became your chair, we committed to an inclusive future for our city and region, building on work begun by my predecessor, John Fry. We knew that our business community must be the engine for economic growth, must foster innovation and collaboration, must work together to improve the quality of life in Greater Philadelphia. But we also understood if we do not ensure that all our neighborhoods are thriving, if we do not lay the groundwork to reduce income inequality and racism, if we cannot jumpstart a journey away from being the poorest big city in America, then all the great work we do is just not enough. So all of you came together. We launched the PHL Neighborhood Growth Project, our new focus on inclusive growth, powered by our region's strength in areas like cell and gene therapies and connected health. We dared to say that the people of Greater Philadelphia deserve more from us. They deserve a vision where everyone is a partner, everyone does the work, everyone benefits, so that every part of the city can support business, family, and community. And that vision, it began to take hold. Then came the events of 2020, lives lost and livelihoods threatened by a dangerous virus, a cry for justice in the streets of American cities, which continues to this very day. The scale of these events was unexpected and unsettling, but they pointed out the same fundamental need we had identified, a need for equal access to justice, to healthcare, to economic opportunity. As business leaders and civic leaders, we know how much work we have to do to fully achieve that access. We also know that the efforts of this chamber, guided by Rob Wunderling and his wonderful team, and led by all of you, have prepared us to do that work. And in Sue Jacobson, the Chamber Board, as a leader who already lives a commitment to diversity and inclusion, who will challenge us to double our efforts, and who brings ideas, relationships, and experience that will produce success. Sue, I'm ready to follow your lead. Since March, Chamber members and leadership have worked diligently and compassionately to help the region face the COVID-19 pandemic. We have strived to help our neighbors and support our healthcare professionals and essential workers. And we have energized our political engagement to marry intentions to results for all of our communities. I've been proud to help lead the development of the long-term response to our challenges. Recharge and Recover, PHL, is a joint effort by the business community and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the City of Philadelphia, and the 4 southeastern Pennsylvania counties. It recognizes the principles of innovation and inclusiveness we have cultivated, and it outlines our aspirations for the region going forward. The aspiration that most hits home for me and my colleagues at Independence Blue Cross is this: becoming the healthiest and most livable community in the Northeast. To reach that goal, we need a true public-private partnership to build out the regional platform for testing, contact tracing, and communication. I know the Chamber can help make that happen. As I conclude my work as chair, which has been one of the great privileges of my career, I feel so proud of the things we have accomplished. Even as we face another deep challenge, I know we help prepare Philadelphia not just to weather difficult times, but to unite behind the possibility of a much brighter future in our neighborhoods and across this city, region, and the nation. Thank you.
The past several months have forced us to confront that racism isn't just part of our history, it's part of our present. Racism is a healthcare issue. We know that a person's skin color affects their access to healthcare and the resources they need to live well. It is with this in mind that we launched an anti-racism commitment, a collective agreement of 15 local health systems to combat discrimination in all of its forms. This is not just about doing the right thing, it's about understanding how racism has prevented communities of color from accessing care and doing everything we can to prevent that from continuing.
In August, the city announced the launch of PHL Connected to ensure all school children have the internet service, computers, and tech support necessary for virtual learning. This unique partnership between city, school, foundation, and business leaders was born from months of effort. Tackling our biggest challenges requires nothing less than this kind of collaborative approach to problem solving.
The BTT program has allowed me to be in a place where I normally wouldn't have the opportunity to be in, because going into the BTT program, I am already in an advanced place, because I work with a lot of individuals in the lab who already have their bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. So the BTT program allowed me to be within the same setting and ranks of those scientists and individuals.
It wouldn't be 2020 without a tech glitch, though, right? So let's start over. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Mark Coleman, and I had the pleasure of moderating the conversation that you're about to see with President Valerie Smith just shortly before Walter Wallace Jr. was shot. I wanted to take a moment to lend my perspective on this most recent tragedy. While the sequence of events and responses are studied and debated, one thing is abundantly clear. Our system, the society in which we all live, failed Walter Wallace. As a human being, I grieve for his family and our city. As a Black man, I am tired to the point of breaking. I'm angry, I am sad, and I am not okay. So many of our Black and brown colleagues are going through all of this and more as well. Yet here today, as chair of the DEI committee, I remain undaunted in my efforts to work towards a more equitable future. I therefore implore this business community to remain united and focus on activating change for each of us to do our part to fix our broken system. Thank you, and I hope the events of just this week remind us all of why these conversations and this work is so important. Hi, I'm Mark Coleman, President and CEO of the Tactile Group. I too have been fortunate to have found support from businesses in this region and organizations like PIDC and the Chamber. I am honored to serve as a member of the Chamber's Executive Committee, and today I am here as the chair of the Chamber's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The Chamber, its board, and the CEO Council for Growth made a commitment last June to fight against systemic racism, police brutality, and economic injustice with our Equity Pledge. As noted, our work for years to come will live at the intersection of our Equity Pledge and the Recharge and Recovery recommendations regarding the stability, growth, and investment in Black and brown leaders and businesses. Accountability, actionability, and metrics have to drive this work forward, and it starts at home. For instance, at the Tactile Group, even we as a Black-owned LGBT company have had to address implicit bias in our hiring processes as our team has become fully remote in the time of COVID. If we need to do this, you probably do too. Now I'd like to invite Valerie Smith, President of Swarthmore College, to join me to discuss how we can hold ourselves accountable and how to nurture future leaders of tomorrow. Welcome, President Smith.
Hello, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here, and hello, everyone.
Wonderful. Now, President Smith, you are a distinguished scholar in African American literature, an advocate for African American studies, and at Swarthmore, you place a strong emphasis on ensuring a continued focus on diversity and inclusion. Can you share your thoughts on creating a more equitable society?
Sure, thank you. Well, I believe diversity in our schools, neighborhoods, communities, and institutions is deeply important, but it's only a start. It's not enough to check off boxes to prove that we have more representatives of specific groups in our organizations. We also have to be willing to listen to and learn from the diverse voices, experiences, and perspectives represented in these spaces. We also have to be willing to question the status quo and be open to change. So that level of inclusivity can help us move forward to creating more just and equitable organizations, and I believe a more just and equitable society.
Thank you very much for that. And at Swarthmore, you've made it a top priority to attract more low-income and first-generation students to increase diversity. What are your biggest obstacles you face in making that happen?
Well, at Swarthmore and other small liberal arts colleges, some of the biggest obstacles we've faced in recruiting a more diverse student body include lack of name recognition, so people may not have heard a school like Swarthmore, confusion about the meaning of the liberal arts, is it an art school, and concern about the cost of higher education at a private college. So we've taken a number of steps to address these obstacles. We've seized on opportunities to meet with counselors, students and their families, and community-based organizations across the country, often in collaboration with other small liberal arts colleges, to introduce students and their families to the idea of the small liberal arts college, so that they can come to appreciate the importance of personalized attention from faculty and staff, the value of a tightly knit community, our emphasis on educating the whole person, sort of things like that. Now, prior to COVID, we welcomed students, school groups, community organizations onto our campus so they could familiarize themselves with the atmosphere on our campuses. They could meet faculty, staff, students, and begin to imagine themselves as Swarthmore students. But since the pandemic hit, We've had to enhance our virtual tours. It's not the same as an in-person experience, as you know, but it's still a pretty good introduction to the community. We've also spent significant time and energy making sure that students and their families understand our generous financial aid policy. We're fortunate to be able to offer financial aid in the form of grants rather than loans so that students don't have to take on mountains of debt if they want to pursue a Swarthmore education. But in light of the publicity around, the weight of college debt, it's been important for us to spend time explaining how our financial aid policy works.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. It's really interesting to hear how you're building your community there without actually being physically close.
Right.
So in chamber programming, we are moving beyond words and into moments where we can learn, we teach, and we do. The CEO Access Network, of which I am an alum, pairs established C-suite executives, that's a tricky one, with underrepresented CEOs to support in the stabilization and growth of Black and Brown entrepreneurs. During my time with my mentor and later as a mentor myself, I found that the dialogue about complicated business issues to be amongst the most valuable parts of the program. My question to you, President Smith, is how can we build communities where difficult conversations can be had with open dialogue and civility?
Wow. Well, civility is a value that is very important to me, and I think it's crucially important in communities that aspire to be diverse because we're welcoming people with different experiences. We need to be able to hear and listen to each other. But as you know, I'm sure many of our audience members appreciate as well, the term civility has become somewhat complicated in contemporary discourse. And partly that's because folks in Black and Brown communities know that civility has often been used to sort of try to silence us or to try to cover over exclusionary behavior and bias of various kinds. But I do think it's crucially important for us to be able to stay in conversation with each other if we intend to solve intractable problems together. And I think that means, first of all, being able to listen and to stay in a difficult an uncomfortable place, even in spaces of conflict. I think we have to somehow manage our fear and apprehension around conflict. I think we have to learn how to communicate around defensiveness, right? And I think we need to be able to identify what our shared goals are, to appreciate that we may be coming from very different places, that there are times when those differences can feel like threats, but that we can choose to dismantle those threats in many instances. I also think it means listening to ourselves. It means listening to the other. It means listening to ourselves. And so I think it's I think civility is important, but I think it's challenging. But as I said, I think it's really important in communities that aspire toward true diversity and inclusion.
I totally agree. And one important part that resonates with me personally is being able to have those uncomfortable conversations and staying in them, right. Making spaces that are, safer, but, you're going to have some conflict if you're going to get to a solution, at least try to understand each other better. So if you had one simple action-oriented challenge for the audience of business and civic leaders today, what would it be?
Okay. Thank you. So, earlier you talked about the importance of mentorship in your own career. And I think if I would suggest one action-oriented challenge that I think would make a big difference, it would be for members of the business and entrepreneurial community to begin to develop partnerships early on with secondary schools, with community colleges, with four-year colleges and universities, so that opportunities in these fields are made visible to young folks underrepresented communities. And I think many of us appreciate that sometimes it's hard to imagine ourselves in certain careers if we've never seen people in those careers who look like us. But I think helping our young people to understand that these possibilities exist, being willing to answer their questions about how you and your colleagues found these opportunities, being candid about some of the setbacks, but what drives your passion for these fields, I think it can make an enormous difference. So I think I would our colleagues to reach out to schools to find ways of communicating, even in this virtual environment, with young people, whetting their appetite for careers in business and entrepreneurship, and perhaps even creating virtual opportunities for shadowing, for internships. And then when we're able to gather together again in person, to open up the doors and inviting them into our spaces of work.
Well, that's wonderful. And I totally agree. Often the mind can't imagine what the eye can't see. So that part is very important. So after this conversation today, I challenge the audience to bring their experience, engagement, and support to the Chamber's DEI programs, where we can continue to have these conversations, if I could speak today. And with that, our time together has come to an end. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, President Smith.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Here at REC, for us, it's really about creating access to the important resources for creative talent here in Philadelphia to thrive through their passions. For us, it's about helping artists see themselves as creative entrepreneurs and be able to build a livelihood to own their future here in the creative economy of Philadelphia. Our community was some of the most affected when it came to their ability to earn revenue because they were so used to getting out on stage or in front of people. Social distancing ended that. So for us, we were able to use our positioning right between the creative community and the business community, and with the support of some really incredible organizations, we were able to raise over $25,000 of micro grants to put right directly into the hands of creators who were in need at this time.
Hi, I'm Jim Burnett. I'm the Executive Director of the West Philadelphia Financial Services Institution. We at the Chamber have the unique opportunity to be a part of Philadelphia's recharge and recovery. But it has to be an equitable recovery so that all of Philadelphia's businesses and residents have an opportunity to participate.
Hello, my name is Suleiman Rahman. I am the CEO of Diverse Force. I've worked with the Chamber over the last 2 years on the Inclusive Growth Initiative and more recently as a board member. And I'm really excited about the Collective Impact Initiative to recover and recharge PHL, particularly around the idea of making Philadelphia a leader in supporting Black, Brown, and locally owned businesses. I hope that you see the value in this initiative and join us. Thank you.
In order for our city, region, and country to prosper for all, it's imperative that new wealth is created through diverse entrepreneurship.
Antoine Johnson, a minority and woman-owned construction company, exists in part because of the power of mentorship, specifically because of the mentorship of Emily Bittenbender. I am fortunate of the bond we forged. Emily has been there through small and major hurdles and has helped me win work. And although we're competitors now, we continue to help one another. Collectively, we can do better if individually we each take a singular step and help a small, diverse business.
Hi, everyone. So before I say a few words, I just want to echo the sentiments that Dan, Mark, and Val shared. My heart goes out to the family of Walter Wallace. It's a tragic reminder that we have a lot of work to do as Philadelphians, both as a city and as a community. And so this is a difficult time. And I thank all of you for being with us today. Dan and the board, I want to thank you for your confidence in me and for this incredible opportunity to help make change. And most important, thank you for embarking with the Chamber on the critical work we are going to do together. I have been lucky enough to work with incredible leaders and members of our chamber, and there are too many to talk about today, but it does start, of course, with Dan Hilferty, with whom I've worked so closely these past 2 years. We are so lucky to have Dan as one of our region's great civic leaders. And Drexel's president, John Fry, he is showing us that transforming a campus and investing in community is a win-win for everyone. And then there's Charmaine Matlock Turner. She is changing lives as a leader of the Urban Affairs Coalition. And of course, David Cohen, whose visionary leadership touches us all, including his brainchild and now a national transformational model, the Chamber's Recharge and Recover initiative. I also want to give a very special shout out to a trailblazer, Judy Von Seldnick. She has been such a model for me. She is a business builder and an engaged citizen, and she cares deeply about this city. And today, I have the pleasure of announcing the newest members of our board of directors and executive committee. And they're going to be working with all of us to make change happen. Manu Astana, Ellen Bacchius, Jim Burnett, Rob Bynum, Greg Karen, Chris Serra, Aaron Cohen, Kim Freitz-Dow, Susan Hardwick, Mark Helberg, Lisa Hughes, Dixie-Ann James, David Mason, Jason Morgan, Ann Nevins, Grant Palmer, Sam Patterson, Michael Pearson, Solman Rahman, Gregory Reeves, Travis Rhodes, Ken Scott, Andrew Still, and our executive committee members, Jeff Garcino and Malik Majid. So each of these leaders, they are doers, and they share my belief that now more than ever is the time for action. So 2 weeks ago, I chaired my first chamber board meeting. And as I said then, I feel the weight of this moment to do something, as I know we all do, because we know that our communities and our companies flourish when every single person, regardless of color, gender identity, faith, or culture, has the opportunity and support they need to thrive in their work and in their personal lives. That is not just a nice slogan. It is a proven fact about the higher productivity and problem-solving capacity of truly diverse, inclusive organizations. And the same is true of cities and communities at a moment when our collective problem-solving capacity was frankly never more critical. So when I first agreed to take on this role over a year ago, the challenges seemed big, but they were clear to all of us, starting with a level of income and racial inequality in Philadelphia that is both economically damaging and morally unacceptable. We recognized that our city and region simply could not succeed going forward with the distinction of being the nation's poorest big city. Inclusive growth was already a top chamber priority, and rightly so. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, along with the long overdue reckoning over racial injustice and threat to Black lives. Together, they revealed the depth and economic cost of racial inequality. And COVID only deepened the divide, with disproportionate job losses and small business closures felt by Black and Brown communities. So what we knew back in January was a festering crisis suddenly became a catastrophe for so many Philadelphians. I know January seems like a century ago, especially given what's happened since to businesses and jobs of all kinds. But I do have to say that this chamber was clear-eyed about the historic scope of the challenge, and they stepped up to meet the moment. While we continue to build on so much good work of recent years, today marks a new chapter for the chamber because it simply has to be. And I believe the recharge and recover efforts will position Greater Philadelphia and the work of this chamber as a national model in rebuilding our economy for everyone. What I want to make very clear is that accomplishing a transformational agenda at scale demands an unprecedented level of partnership and commitment from those of us in the business community, along with our mayor and city council, civic and mission-driven organizations, colleges and universities, hospitals and research centers. Look, we all thrive on competition, right? That's what drives our companies to succeed. But we are in a moment when we have to work together. That is how we will make a real impact on the challenges we face in both creating jobs and preparing Philadelphians to fill them. So here's an exciting example of what Recharge and Recover is all about. Bank of America is joining with Comcast and the Lenfest Foundation to invest $1 million in a major new initiative to ensure that underrepresented Philadelphians receive a new level of access to education, training, and jobs in tech and innovation. And what they're doing is they're going to be working with an organization that already has proven success. You've probably heard of it, Coded by Kids, One Philadelphia. I know they are serious about getting this done. And this is just one transformational example of what's to come. So the point is, we have a plan. And equally important, a collective determination to follow it through. Let me just add one personal point. Even though I may not resemble the profile of some of our past chairs, I cannot wait to bring my experience to meet this unique moment. I've worked for Mayor Rendell with City Council and our elected leadership, and more recently as an entrepreneur who started and scaled my own business that works with many businesses, large and small, and organizations across the region. And I have to say, that gives me a firsthand insight into the challenges, opportunities, and priorities so many of us face that allow us to grow, build our companies, and create new jobs. I am going to use that experience to help me lead this organization at a challenging moment for our city. Clearly, it's one that none of us could have ever expected. But the fact is, I'm going to need your help, and I'm not going to hesitate to ask for it. We have a great team at the Chamber, led by Rob, and their work is essential to the organization. But the heart of this mission and this moment is our collective capacity to come together as a civic and business community, investing our resources, our expertise, and our determination to make Philadelphia a place that truly lives up to the American promise we are so proud was framed here. And like Hamilton, we're not throwing away our shot to fulfill that promise. I can't imagine a more important responsibility, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity, and I can't wait for us to get to work together.
I want to take a moment now to recognize those supporters who have made today possible. Title sponsor, Independence Blue Cross. Presenting sponsor, Comcast NBC Universal. Chairperson sponsor, Jacobson Strategic Communications. Premium sponsors, PICO, PNC, and Stradley Ronan. Co-sponsors, AmeriHealth Caritas, Bryan Communications, Citizens, Diversified Search, Drexel University, Mainline Health, Morgan Properties, and Villanova School of Business. And supporting sponsors, American Bible Society, CCS Fundraising, eConsult Solutions, Fair Trade Outsourcing, My Benefit Advisor, PJM Interconnection, and the Wistar Institute. A virtual round of applause for our sponsors.
My name is Sia McCabe, and I'm committed to a future with equitable access to living wages, resources, and opportunities. A future where we invest in our people. A future where we continue to make great things happen in our city.
The Philadelphia region is where cell and gene therapy started more than 2 decades ago. Spark Therapeutics was founded here, and as we execute on an ambitious growth agenda, we're proud to call Philadelphia home. Philadelphia has all the ingredients to support a thriving biotechnology industry, world-class medical institutions, and internationally renowned universities. I'm particularly proud to call Philadelphia home, and prouder still to have served as a member of the Recovery and Recharge Initiative Task Force, and look forward to playing my role and our role in making it a great success.
My hope for Greater Philadelphia is to harness the power of women and girls who are discovering a strong sense of self, connecting with other people and truly valuing our diverse perspectives, and taking action individually and collectively to make the world a better place. How we do this is by leading with empathy and introducing innovations when we see injustices of any kind, big or small. I know that together we can make Greater Philadelphia even better.
I decided to stay in Philadelphia after I was done playing for 3 reasons. 1, because I think it's the greatest sports town in the country. There's 4 historic franchises and the fans absolutely care about their sports in this town. 2, it's always about the people. I think Philadelphia is full of hardworking, gritty people. And 3, the city is embracing and innovating the way public space can bring people together, and I'm excited about the future.
Hi, my name is Aileen Gallagher, and I envision clean, reliable energy supply and dependable internet access at work, school, and at home to support us in a future where many continue to work and learn in more dispersed settings, as well as clean, reliable public transportation connecting us both within and beyond the region, and a strengthened commitment from local businesses such as PICO.
At the Villanova School of Business, I envision a prosperous future for Philadelphia that serves and supports all. VSB is proud to join the Chamber in pledging our commitment to equity. Our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is creating safe and open dialogues, enhancing curricula, training our faculty, staff, and students, and cultivating allyship.
COVID in this environment has certainly made it tough on our industry and others. And I know that as a community and as a restaurant industry, we can all pull together to make some changes, pivot, get our business going in the right way through new and innovative food ideas, new menu items that I'm happy to be sharing with our guests. Let's do this, Philadelphia. Go.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today for our first virtual annual meeting. And at one point during our program, approximately 1,000 Chamber members have logged on to participate in this unique and important gathering of our business, civic, and public communities. As been mentioned throughout this program, and as all things for our Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, really would like to recognize our sponsors that without their support, without their commitment, we could not have brought to you this virtual annual meeting this afternoon. For the last several months, and I know I speak for our Chamber colleagues, we've just been so inspired by our business and civic community. What we have seen day by day and week by week and now month by month is literally free enterprise in action. Literally businesses helping businesses stay in business. A coming together to fight this insidious virus, to deal with the economic aftershocks that this pandemic has brought forth. But yet through it all, this business community has not relented in giving back, in reaching deep with philanthropy and charity and support for our most vulnerable citizens and throughout our entire community. It's leadership, pure and simple. Now, there are 2 leaders that I really want to express my gratitude this afternoon. First is our outgoing chair, Dan Hilferty. And over the last 2 years, Dan, it's just been an absolute delight to work with you, to be in service to you. I've learned much from you, and I know that we'll continue to work together to build a brighter future for our city and our region. And there were times that you were our inspiration as you rallied us to beat COVID-19. With a steely yet compassionate heart, you created in us the notion that yes, we can come together, and yes, we can achieve much. And to Sue Jacobson, very excited to work with you as you lead us all. And I have no doubt that you are the right leader for our time. And I know I speak for all of us in this business community that we stand ready to follow you as you drive forward with our recharge and recovery agenda. Now, Abraham Lincoln paraphrased the notion that on occasions the difficulties seem to pile high, yet what we have seen in service to all of you is that this business community, your Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, has met those occasions, has grabbed onto those difficulties, and through the free enterprise system has worked tirelessly to build a recovery from this global pandemic. That's why we are so passionate in service to you. We come alongside you, we work with you, and over the last several months together, we've accomplished much. As early as April, we began to wheel around a virtual Chamber of Commerce as we are experiencing today. And since that time, we've delivered approximately 100 virtual products. Actually, more specifically, you have delivered those programs that have kept businesses moving throughout this pandemic. And we have served close to 10,000 individual chamber members through those 100 virtual events. Together, we have been fierce advocates at the federal, state, and local level for the public resources necessary to stimulate and to safeguard and to protect and to get us through this pandemic, while at the same time being fierce advocates for the business community, for free enterprise. Because we know that it is free enterprise that will create intergenerational wealth that will solve ultimately for systemic intergenerational poverty. And we also know in service to all of you that this Chamber of Commerce truly is the heart of good business. Now, as Sue suggested, we've got a lot of work to do, and it's going to be difficult. But the Recharge and Recovery Initiative, which is a true public-private partnership, is the ability for us to collaborate, to work together, and to recover economically from this global pandemic. And most critically, to do so with equity, so that regardless of where you live, regardless of zip code, you'll have that opportunity to work, to be employed, to be part of the free enterprise systems, to grow businesses, and then achieve what we lost just a few months ago. I'd like to thank those that have already been engaged in the Recharge and Recovery Initiative. And if you'd like to join us, join the effort, please visit us and take our Recharge and Recovery Pledge. We need your help. On a personal note, back in March, I committed myself to 3 basic principles as we all were moving into this very, very uncertain time in our city and in our history and in our lives. The first was to be compassionately patient. The second, to really serve and love others. And then finally, and a bit difficult, I must say, is not to judge any public official at the federal, state, or local level on their handling of this insidious, unseen virus, but rather marshal our resources to lend a helping hand. So based on those 3 principles, chamber members, members of our community, our public officials that have joined us today, that I'm extremely confident. I know that through your Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia that we're going to continue to serve each other. I know that we're going to be able to lift up this city and this region and accomplish big things and sometimes small things, but it will be forward progress and it will be an accomplishment. And then finally, I know, regardless of how high the difficulties are on the occasions that are before us, that we will meet those challenges and we will prevail. So stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected.